Right, gentlemen, I don't see any lady names. Welcome here to this webinar. Chris briefed me quickly about you, Toby, and you know that you are also an investor there in England. You have a network of members. You are concerned about that, and for this session today, we are going to give you an opportunity to field some questions to us as the panel, and we will in turn, let the right people try and answer you what you want to know. This is not a very formal session. It's really one of those where we want to talk to the other concerned members out in the network and spread the word that RAG was put together for the best interest of all investors in MTI. So Toby, if you would like to maybe just take the floor, maybe just tell a little bit about your network. When did you start? What's happening on your side? What are some of the concerns out there? You've got the floor for a couple of minutes if you want to take it.
Yeah, wonderful. First of all, can I just check? Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Yes, I can hear you.
Fantastic. Okay, first of all, thanks for sort of holding this meeting with us this afternoon. Obviously, I myself am an investor. I have family, friends that are invested in MTI as well. Unfortunately, for the sad situation that we all seem to be in right now, is affecting everybody. We have a few groups. I guess I've been invested in MTI, I think, if you can correct me, Maras, but we're talking, what, 6 months ago now, 7 months ago, was when I first got involved. I have a few groups now within Telegram and also a couple of WhatsApp groups which I have formed together basically originally to form for people to come together, share thoughts, support each other. And if anybody has any information, really just to share it and bring it forward, and we'll try and move forward in a way that we have. Now, obviously, since then, the RAG team has been formed. There's been a lot of information, a little, discontent going around. A lot of people have trust issues, which is understandable, unfortunately, where we are right now. Even myself, still very hard to trust everybody. We have a set of questions that I think are quite, for everybody within our groups, if we can answer these questions to the best of our ability, and most importantly, provide transparency with these, I think we can go a long way to moving forward. I'm definitely being honest with you now that I am more on the side of the RAG team now than I ever was before. I've done a lot of research in this. I have quite a lot of background in IT. So where should we start? Should we start straight with the questions?
I want to just ask you a question, Toby. You say that you've got more trust in RAG at the moment. Could you maybe tell me what is it that you have found at this point in time, just for feedback to some of the RAG team members?
Okay, if I'm honest with you, I'm going to put it straight on the plate. So my biggest concern was that when this RAG team was formed, to me, it came across as a bit of an exit scam. Because clearly I raised some issues at the start. From your first ever meeting that was raised and put on the internet, there was a member in there claiming to be Johnny Kruger. This guy, as we knew, was Johan Kruger. Now I know from my digging around and everybody else digging around that this guy was a main member of MTI and also a founder. So this raised concerns straight away. Now, since then, I have consistently tried to get on the Zoom meetings, and I have made contact with Chris. And I am now fully assured that he is no longer part of this RAG team, or was never a part of the RAG team in the first place. So my understanding of that now has been changed. So yet again, Chris, I do thank you for that, because it was very important to me, which is why I kept pushing and pushing and pushing on them questions. The other question that really concerned me from my IT background is that why we were receiving emails from MTI support. Now, I'll be honest with you and up front, I traced these emails and they were coming from the server. I know that for a fact. Now, obviously, Chris has also laid my concerns to rest with that. We don't need to obviously go into why that is, but obviously, Chris, you have alluded to that on the previous video anyway. So yeah, that's pretty much where I come from. They were two big red flags for me, and they have been kind of quashed, if I'm honest with you. We still have concerns. but I'm definitely more on the fence of the rag team. And right now, as I see it, we don't really have nothing to lose. You know, we're not paying nothing out. You know, all we're doing is nominating a liquidator, from what I understand, or liquidators to move on these assets. For me, moving forward, and everybody in my groups, it's all about transparency and it's all about truth. The trust has to be built, and that can only be built within inside our community. I've always said that 1 is weak, 10 is strong, and I fundamentally believe that 100%. So that's pretty much where I am now with that.
Thank you very much for that, Toby. And I would like to give you as much time possible to ask those questions. But just before we move over to that, are there any of your members on the panel that you would like to maybe just introduce to us that might contribute to you on your behalf?
There's a chap that we know, a very close friend of ours, and they moved from the UK to Australia. He's actually a South African chap. His name is Marius Delaray. He introduced me to MTI. You know, we're all in this together. None of us have nothing to hide. He has some very valid questions he would like to ask as well. So hopefully by the end of this session, you know, we can lay all of that to rest. We can get this video out. I can put it in my group. Marius can put it within his groups, and we can start this ball moving, because I do fundamentally believe right now that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than what we know, including internationally, criminal investigations maybe as well. So yeah, I think we have to try and move forward in a positive way. And I think right now, if we can put these questions to bed, as we say in the UK, that will be brilliant.
Right, fantastic. Then I believe that you are aware of Hendrik van Staden, our advocate, and from some of the other videos, Chris and Hendrik have been involved with some of our RAG team members in fielding a lot of questions over the last couple of days. So I don't think there's any more introductions really necessary at this stage. I see Sharon has just joined us. For now, welcome Sharon here. And I think Chris would like to maybe say something at this stage, just briefly, and then thereafter, Toby, you can maybe start with your first question and concern. And don't be afraid, you know, ask us about, you know, who we are, why are we here, if those are concerns. If it's more technical questions, I believe that Chris and Hendrik on the legal side will be able to answer that more, of which there's a lot of information available on the website already. But those personal questions and things that you are wanting to know, and Marius, jy's 'n boertjie.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be good if you can ask as well. But Chris?
No.
Yeah, I just wanted I was just wondering who Marius was, because Toby threw him on me and said, I want him as a panelist. So maybe Marius can just introduce himself a little bit to us and just give us a short bio as so we know.
You're kind of breaking up a little bit, Chris.
Okay, I just ask you for a short bio, I think.
Yes, I'm at the moment currently living in Perth in Australia, and I was also introduced about probably 6, 7, 8 months ago, and I had some concerns at the time, like I wasn't 100% sure, but we believe what people tell you to believe at the time, and I started to just a small network. It's not big, and my biggest thing, and for anyone that listened to me, I'm feeling so responsible for the people that I introduced. I never wish ever that I would have introduced anyone if I knew what this was going to play out to be like. And I'm not in a situation to make all these people that all these things disappear and go away. I can't. I wish I can. And I'm just feeling so guilty for what happened here, really. And it's broken my heart. It's broken people's families, their lives that's involved in here, pensioners. It's just, yeah. And I hope by going this route that we can have something back for the people. Like,
Thank you, Marius. That is a sentiment that we pick up regularly, and I would like to get more people like yourself, that have those stories involved, so that we can hear on the ground floor what is basically happening there. So, Toby, if you have some questions, and if you want to ask Marius to ask questions, you are open. I'm giving you the floor over there. Let's take them one question at a time. And if I can't answer it, I will ask one of the members to fill in for you.
Okay, fantastic. I know Marius has a few questions, and I do have a list because I did put it in my group for people to fire questions at me. I have kind of filtered through what I think is quite important to our group. So I'll start because we have about 15. Now, I guess some of them will be quite simple, but I'll leave it with you guys. I'm going to ask, I'll just start as we go on. So my first question is, how many people form the RAG team?
Well, currently, we are a very small team. Chris, the exact number you can maybe just check for me there. But apart from the ones that are sitting in a think tank, if I can put it that way, we have people helping us on the outside that's not sitting on the panel. Now, maybe I must just explain something to you from the process side and why it was formed. We had the same as you, many concerned people, and we had a lot of trawlers on our WhatsApp groups that became uncontrollable from trying to answer speculative questions. And so on that, I approached some of the members in my team and asked them and said, guys, is there any way that we could come to the truth and stop trawling on the site? So that was important. And then Hendrik came on board, and then Chris contacted me and said that he has this system, and Chris can talk about that at some stage, the website and the possibility of call it a hub through which we can coordinate two things. We have the legal side of and the technical side, and then we have the network side and the members out there that are obviously very scared of information flying out there. So we produced, amongst a few of us, a channel where we could verify information. We've been sitting for hours at nights and through the nights, and there's been a lot of tears in our group because we all had to do a lot of things at once to verify information. We decided not to give out information out there which is hearsay information. We can't answer all the questions about where is Yuan, is he still alive, did he run away, is he hiding the Bitcoin. Those things we stopped. So when Chris contacted me initially, he said, get your best guys together. And I have a handful of friends that I trust. Some of them I've known for many years. And it was just a starting point in making sure that no one is going to take information that comes to us from various sources, and even things that we do get from the advocates, that is sensitive information that we just can't go and flaunt out there. Otherwise, we just become another trawling group. So just a bit of background of how it was formed and what is happening inside here. The current core group inside MTI, Chris, you can correct me on that. I think we're about 10 or just under 10 members that are sitting over here, of which we have 2 advocates on our panel. And then Chris can also maybe elaborate on the association that was formed last night with the US. They're not on the RAG team, but they are joining hands with us. Does that firstly answer you, Toby?
It does, yeah. I mean, a lot of my questions will be pointed towards the RAG group. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't have questions about Johann Steinberg, Sherry Marks, or anything like that. My questions to you for my group are you guys legit? Are you real? Are you doing what you say you're going to do? Because if so, can I be part of it to help out to spread the word to my team? So yes, the number one question, that kind of answers that. The next question that I have actually relies a bit more to the first question. Now, can you provide the identities of all these people for the transparency so that we can provide it to our group?
I'm going to ask Chris to maybe just come in at this point.
Just so that everybody understands, we were.
Sorry, your sound. The sound is
My sound is on at the moment.
that's it on now. Yes. Okay.
Okay. There we are. Is my sound on now?
It's right. Yeah.
Being muted all the time. Somebody's muting me.
Not me. No, you're muted again. Okay, you're up, Chris.
Okay. First of all, the problem was that we were just thrown together as a group. We got. I was on Henry's group. I saw there was a problem. We started talking about what's the best solution, and I know how people go frantic when something like this happens.
Mm-hmm.
And you might ask me why. It's because I've been scammed in a similar thing years ago. Not this type of scheme, but a false investment scheme. And the thing is that if people don't get together like a funnel and put it together as a group, and there's a central group to answer to and talk to and all the rest of that, everybody tries to get on top of this thing in their own way. And it advantages the people with a lot of money and resources and disadvantages the people who don't have the resources. So that was my first fear. Those people that don't have the resources, we've got to get them the best possible representation we can. And then also ask the people who have the resources to support us. And that's the truth of who we are. We got a lot of people together. We talked about who would like to be part of the RAG group. And a lot of our people who are part of the RAG group at the moment are scared. Because we've had lots of death threats. We've had death threats amongst the group. So they don't want to put their names out there. But we're getting to so what we've done is we're sort of holding this in limbo until after the actual appointment of the liquidator. So what we want to get out there is get this liquidator appointed, because the whole thing will reform itself at that stage. And I think that's why one of the reasons we've tried to form, we want to be a non-profit organization, but we're not at the stage. We've got too much other things going on at the moment to formulate that correctly. We've looked at it, we've got the legal positions and so on. So that's where we are right now. What will happen to the RAG team after the appointment of the liquidator is a question at this stage of the game. I believe that we'll still be a conduit, but we have to then talk to the appointed liquidators and ask them, what do you want the RAG team to do? How is the RAG team going to be funded? Who's going to fund the RAG team? Then we can come back with that transparency. Right now, we are pro bono. I have put more funds into this team than I've put into the MTI. So MTI owes me, is only going to cover maybe a third of my costs at this stage of the game. And I think it's similar for a lot of the people who are part of that team at the moment. And our members are not on that pro bono thing yet. We know them all, we know who they are. But some of them are really scared to put their hands up because they know that due to the magnitude of what this is, there's a lot of money and a lot of people out there who want to break legs. And unfortunately, that is one of the problems. I hope that answers your question sufficiently to understand why there is. We're not hiding the transparency, but we are being really careful about it. And all we want to do right now is get the first process complete. When that is complete, we can then officially talk to the liquidator and have a better idea of where the RAG team has to go from there on.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I mean that's understandable from the point of view of people obviously being concerned. Obviously, my only issue with that would be for my people and the people that are asking me questions, well, how can they trust you? So we're kind of going on a whim of faith right now, because obviously everybody wants to do something, but they don't know who to trust. And unfortunately, 100%. The world that we live in right now with that transparency issue is really huge. It really is. Well, now, I understand that.
Yeah, so Toby, just let me put it out there, okay? At the moment, I'm the center piece, and I've put my name out there, and everybody has gone and examined me, and I've found out things about myself I didn't even know.
Interesting. Toby, I would just like to ask Sharon if she's willing to maybe just come on. I wanna put your fears to rest as much as possible. I will tell you a little bit more about myself, but I'm gonna ask Sharon. Sharon, just tell us, how did you get involved with us, and why did you get involved with us? And give a bit of clarity there. I think you know exactly what to answer there.
Sure. Thank you for the question, Toby. My name is Sharon Cousins. I'm based in Johannesburg in South Africa, and I'm purely an MTI investor. I only invested late this year. Well, I keep on saying this year. I must stop saying that because now we're in 2021. So I invested in April 2020 for the first time, and then got a whole lot of friends that trusted me. I've been in network marketing for many, many years as a top network income earner, so people trusted me, and I brought them here. And like has been mentioned on this call, pensioners, hard-earned money, and it's soul destroying. And I raised my hand because I had a look at, for me, it wasn't about the little bit of money that I'd put in. It was about the 280,000 people around the globe who had suffered at other people's mistakes. And we don't know whose mistakes yet. I'm not pointing fingers right now. We don't know who's done what wrong, or maybe they're going to still come forward and we find out that nobody's done anything wrong. But absolutely, I raised my hand and I said, if you need help to get transparency, no matter what, on questions, on answers, on Zoom calls at 3 o'clock in America for their time zone, because we're based in South Africa, whatever it takes to get people on that have invested in MTI into the loop of, this is our website, this is who we are, this is our Telegram group, this is our YouTube channel, in order for them to get, just what's the next step? Because that's everyone's biggest concern, is what's the next step? Just like I was lost. Oh my goodness, all my money's gone. What's the next step? What do I do? I raised my hand and I said, let me help. And I have no legal background. I'm learning as I go with everybody else. But one thing about the RAG team is nothing gets put out that hasn't been checked by our team of advocates, and that is not factual.
Okay. No, I appreciate that, and that goes a long way, to be honest with you, because some of the questions I have, you kind of answered a little bit in between some of them, which is great. So thank you very much for that, Sharon.
You're welcome.
Great. Shall I just crack on with some of these other questions?
Yeah, sure. You're anytime. And if you want me to also tell a little bit more about myself, I'm quite willing to answer that if it will help.
Yeah, I mean, if I just go through some of the questions first, and then maybe we can come back to that, because I think for me this video is quite important to get these questions answered and then put out to the groups, so that they can all see what's going on. Now, one of the biggest questions I have, people ask me, and I have this question as well. I'm from the UK, obviously South Africa. My money was in Bitcoin. I don't want to get rand back. Now, I know this is a massive, complex issue. But I paid fees from my bank to transfer money to my exchange, and then there's a network exchange fee for it to go to MTI. I don't want to be charged fees to get rand back and lose even more money to transfer it back to English money or to Bitcoin.
I'm going to ask Hendrik maybe to come in and just explain a bit from the legal side what was heard last night when the same question comes up. It comes up a lot. There's no clear answer at this stage about everything, but from the liquidation point of view, because it was a South African registered company, there are certain legal aspects from here that has come into play. This is where Hendrik and Chris and the panel are thrashing through these answers. Unfortunately, we don't have one of the liquidators online today to particularly answer that. So if Hendrik, if you can maybe just explain a bit on that side for us.
Thank you, Henry. It's a very complex answer. Usually in South Africa, if entity is liquidated, it's liquidated in rands. And then also the proceeds thereof that's paid over to investors and to creditors are paid over in rands. However, due to the complexity of MTI, as well as the various overseas role players or international role players, which we believe is even more international investors and South African investors, it will be important that whoever are the liquidators that are appointed speak to the local South African authorities to see if there's a possibility that it can be overcome and that either the investors might be paid out in Bitcoin or in foreign currency. But as I say, it needs to be discussed with the Reserve Bank as well as with the South African Revenue Service, as well as with other role players that are regulating it, such as the FACA.
Okay. So just to confirm then that it's not impossible.
It's not impossible, depending on what will be the stance of the various regulating authorities, and if the liquidator are going to approach these authorities to see if they can get the amicable conclusion and amicable solution for the challenge.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. Okay. So
sorry, Toby. Anton, could I just have something to say about regarding that one? The way I see it from Toby's point of view, and anyone abroad, America, Australia, New Zealand, wherever they are, our money that went in Bitcoin is not South African money, and South African money that is earned in our countries where we're sitting, and therefore it never went through the South African system. So why can't we get it back in BTC as how we send it? And this is what my thinking are, because it's not money earned in South Africa, so we didn't buy rands or have rands and convert it to BTC and then send it to MTI. Our money has been earned in dollars, pounds, sterling, euros, USD dollars, and therefore what I can't see, I can understand when they go and get the assets like houses and cars, that's going to be rand, but when the money's sitting in Bitcoin and they retrieve that Bitcoin from wallets, why should that Bitcoin be changed to rand? Because that's Bitcoin.
Chris.
Okay. If I can answer that?
Yeah, Hendrik.
Thank you, guys.
The South African Revenue Service handles Bitcoin as an asset and not as a currency. There was a directive issued in 2017 in that regard as well. So it's seen as an asset. Due to the fact that the investors entrusted their assets to MTI and they relinquished control thereof to MTI, MTI is in control of the asset, or presumed to be in control of the assets. So once that assets are disposed of, it means that in line with the insolvency procedure and liquidation process in South Africa, it means that assets have to be realized in rand, despite it being Bitcoin. That's why I also said it will depend on the liquidator that's appointed, if he can approach the necessary governing authorities to see if it will be possible to repay investors in Bitcoin or in other denominations. But it will all depend, as I say. It's not a hard or fast clear-cut answer that I can give, because there's a lot of variables it depends on.
Okay, thank you, Hendrik.
Chris, you wanted to add something there, or did Hendrik answer?
No, I mean, Hendrik slayed me. That's it. He's got it.
Hendrik, while you're answering that question, I actually have a question for you from some of the people in my group regarding the meeting you had with the USA group the other night. Some people would like to know what experience you have tracing crypto and the recovery of monies, and do you have some evidence that you could provide or point some people in the direction of where they can find some evidence of obviously yourself tracing or having successfulness recovering this sort of stuff?
Okay, I can answer that. You can point them, firstly, if you can make a note. There's 2 other cases that I'm currently involved with regarding cryptocurrencies and also irregular business practices, such as what appeared to have happened with MTI. The first one is called Voltage Solutions, that was run by Mr. Willie Breed, and it is also being handled by one of the liquidators that's in the race for MTI as well. The second one is BTC Global, and I'm working on these cases as well with my fellow advocate Vaughan Victor. He's specializing in cybercrime, recovering of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, as well as irregular business practices. So we are working together in that regard. But feel free to go and Google it and read up about it. We are currently busy with Voltage Solutions. The company itself has already been liquidated, and we are currently in the process of sequestrating Mr. Willie Breed in Pretoria, meaning that once the company has been liquidated, we now try to obtain assets from the estate of Mr. Willie Breed. So during our investigations, we have able to identify various wallets, which was containing Bitcoin that was moved around. And it also would appear, and it's quite possible in this scheme as well, that Bitcoin was transferred to third parties. Now, the good thing is that because it's data, it's got a memory. It's traceable. You can go to Luno, you can go to them, and you can say, but this is the transaction code. This is the amount of Bitcoin that went through the blockchain. And then it's quite possible. It would be very interesting to see if there is any irregularities with MTI. What is the similarities between MTI, Voltage Solutions, and also the investigation they are busy with on BTC Global? As you might have known, there's a lot of allegations that some of the major players in BTC Global is also the same people that was involved with MTI. So feel free to go and research that on the internet as well. I don't want to jump to conclusions and find people guilty. There's a possibility that the people might be innocent or they might be guilty. But in South Africa, we see people as innocent until proven guilty.
Okay.
Can I just follow that with a question? And I think Henry, to an extent, answered that. So from what I understand, and this is the first time this penny is dropped with me, is that there are similarities between the investigations in cryptocurrencies that you are conducting at the moment, and there seems to be an overflow into MTI. Is that correct?
Yes, Chris, it is correct. There appears to be various similarities, and also it appears that some of the people that's involved in some of the other schemes that I've just mentioned might be involved with MTI as well. If during our investigations, we also investigated the older Ponzi scheme called Thrive International. Then you get Triple M, and you get BitClub Network as well. Unfortunately, if you don't take legal action in South Africa within 3 years after a scheme comes to collapse, it prescribes, meaning that you're not able to pursue civil action in that regard. But people can still be held criminally liable by the authorities. So, unfortunately, some of the schemes is older than 3 years, but we did an investigation thereof, and we traced that assets are actually still existing somewhere. And sometimes even for some of these schemes, they use exactly the same wallets to transfer cryptocurrencies to and from.
Thank you very much.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for that. That was great. I'm going to ask you kind of 3 questions in one here, so please don't get lost with me. So the first question that I'm going to join into this is, if you guys have had management or leaders come forward so far, one, why have they not been arrested, or have they been arrested? Can you tell us that? 2, once the funds are recovered, if any are recovered, will they be consolidated into one fund if there's more than one liquidator? And 3, who will pay the final claims fees?
If I can answer that?
Yeah, Henry.
Firstly, due to the magnitude of this estate of MTI, there will be more than one liquidator appointed. And we presume it will probably be 3 of them that will be appointed, of which one will be the lead liquidator, meaning the person with the most say. And because there's such a lot of work and a lot of tracing and various legal aspects that needs to be done, the liquidators will all be involved together. and they will be working together. Well, when it comes to criminal charges, the criminal charges in the MTI case has been laid in Stellenbosch in November last year. After the FSCA also brought out a report pertaining to various acts and legislation in South Africa that was not followed by MTI. Firstly, that apparently it was operating without being registered at a Financial Services Conduct Board, as well as there was possible transgressions of the Banking Act in South Africa. Unfortunately, investigations take time, and only once the investors did not receive their payouts, that's only then when the big complaint started. I am aware that the Hawks are busy investigating MTI. How far they are currently in the investigation is unknown, because it doesn't help they just start arresting people without having concrete evidence, because otherwise they can be sued for unlawful arrest, and that can also have a lot of repercussions and setbacks for any criminal investigation against any perpetrators. I'll just confirm, there's one question I didn't answer. Which one is that, Toby?
I've got to think now what I asked you. So you answered the one about people being arrested. If the funds, once all the funds have been and the assets have been, frozen or got hold of, will they be put into one fund, and who will cover the final claim fee? Because obviously once everything has been put together, everyone's going to have to submit their final claim, prove who they are, regarding on how much they may get back. Who will be responsible for that?
The person responsible would be the liquidator team, and that's why I emphasized it on various times. There's not a specific liquidator I am backing, because I'm neutral in that totally. But it's very important to see it's a person with integrity, person with experience in Ponzi schemes or pyramid schemes, as well as a person with the ability or a track record of dealing with cryptocurrencies. That person will then be in charge of the whole pot after all the assets have been identified by the persons that will be doing the investigation and identification of assets of MTI, and or people that might be liable to bring back or contribute some of the gains they made with MTI. So that person is then very vital in ensuring everything is distributed, and that will be on a pro rata basis to ensure that no one investor is getting a better deal than the other ones.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so I've got two final questions I want to ask, and then I just want to hand over to Marius because I think he's got a couple of questions. So one of the questions, my final questions I have is from another person within the group that would like to ask about Toby Bernard, the advocate. What experience and evidence does he have within the Ponzi and crypto industry? And the final question would be, can you guys just confirm that once we fill these nomination forms in, on the forms it actually states the amount of Bitcoin or Rand that we need to put in? Can you confirm? Because I have heard two different conflicting stories, so I want to make this 100% sure that everybody within my group knows that the amount that we are putting on the paper, is it the amount that we first invested, or is it the amount that we basically shows on our account at the end, including all profits?
Okay. I cannot answer the question on Toby. Maybe one of the other panelists can answer that. And the second part of the question I will be able to answer. Basically, it's very important that all investors take photos of the screenshots of their account that's registered on the MTI server, which will be used later on to submit claims against the estate of MTI. When it comes to the amount that needs to be put down on the nomination form, remember the reason for a nomination is to firstly just get a liquidator appointed. So that contributes towards the liquidator's headcount or value of all the funds of the people that nominate him. There's two schools of thought with this. The one group says, but put in the amount that you are owned according to what is displayed on your screen of your MTI account. That's the one thought of play. The second thought of play is that you must only put the amount which you invested with MTI, less any withdrawals you had with MTI, plus any additional investments that you'd made with MTI. So with the, initially that's not going to be such a train smash. The thing that will come in is once MTI has declared the irregular business practice, meaning that if it is found that it has been a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme, then creditors will only be entitled to the amount they did invest minus any payouts they received, and then plus any additional contributions that they did make or invest into MTI. Because that is the amount that they will have to prove with the liquidator as to be able to ensure they get a claim. If it is possible that there was no trading done, that's the route that will be taken by the liquidator. If there was proof that there was some trading done, there's a lot of depending on actual events and what happened to the entrusted assets that was handed over by the investors to MTI.
Okay.
Can I just answer the Tui Bernardi thing? At the moment, the reason that Hendrik can't answer that, it is something that he can't answer from a legal point of view. He's not allowed to reflect on that from a legal point of view. But I'm not in that fraternity. I'm just an ordinary person. So Advocate Tui Bernardi is very, very highly thought of in the legal circles for his ability to work with these liquidations. He has inordinate amount of experience with this type of thing. And he has dealt with many of these cases. And he's one of those people who's just absolutely astute that it has to go correctly. I mean, he has a sense of righteousness about him that just makes him stand out above the others. And that's one of the reasons we are really privileged to have him as part of, how can I say, as a consultant to the group, because he's giving his time. You saw him come out at 3 o'clock last night, and he's giving his time. He's working really hard to make sure that we've got the right legal counsel and guidance in this. And right from the first day he put up his hand, he said, I'm standing up for this. Guys, I'm here. And he hasn't asked us a single cent for all of that contribution. And you know what sort of fees people like him draw. So he really is a massive asset to this group. And boy, you say something wrong, he'll bounce on you very quickly. And I like that. That's what we need. We need people with honest opinions.
Hi, Chris. I don't know if you can hear me at this stage. I actually lost connection for a while. I just came back. So continue, Toby, if there's any other questions that you have in this. I was about to answer something, but I answered in the meantime.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, there's most of my questions that I think are the most important to my group that they've been asking me. You know, we've got a couple that people are saying, you know, what do they do if they don't trust the liquidators? I mean, obviously, this makes it quite a hard question for anybody to answer, because obviously we need to be able to trust somebody. I'm hoping from this video that we're now doing, that when it goes out to the group, that there will be that element of trust now starting to build. I had a conversation with Chris the other day, and hopefully maybe you can put me on the RAG team as we sort of discussed once things are sorted out, and then that way I can sort of refer people in my groups to the website, and there's a connection then, isn't there, between them and me, and hopefully that way people will start building a little bit more trust and we can move forward. I mean, other than that, that's pretty much all of my questions answered. I think, Maris, you have a couple of questions that you want to ask?
Yeah, I've got a few, yeah. I don't know who to address it to, but first of all, the lawyers of MTI, which is Ulrich and Ruin Associates, were they genuine, the lawyers of MTI?
Yeah, where they were appointed as the lawyers and they accepted their appointment, but then they resigned. I think they resigned because they
Okay.
didn't want to be tainted. It was very clear at the timings that took place there. I don't know, Hendrik, have you got more information on that?
Okay, sorry, the questions is, I just want to finish the question because the next question is, if they were appointed to be the lawyers, how come Ulrich spoke and said MTI is legit, they've done, is under the South African law, they do nothing wrong, and they are being seen as a legit company, and now this lawyer is just pulling out and say, I've got nothing to do with MTI now. How is that law? I mean, that's just to me like really.
I think
and he just can walk away from it.
Yes, I will be able to answer that. Firstly, you should also go and look at the composition of the top management of MTI. According to my knowledge, there was an in-house legal counsel with MTI, which they also advertised as such, which was not Mr. Ulrich Roux. I did read a letter of Mr. Ulrich Roux, where he distanced himself from MTI. I do not know the reasons as to, or I did not see it, why he said that it was compliant with the various pieces of legislation of South Africa. And I'm not going to speculate about these legal advice he gave, because solicitors and lawyers in South Africa must take responsibility for their own legal advice they do give.
Okay.
I would just like to answer a question that came up in the text. I think I was busy texting an answer back there and it disappeared. A person asked the question and said they have direct contact with Sherry Marks, and she replied on a WhatsApp to her that she has communicated information through to the RAG team, and I was busy texting to say that we have none. We have none, anyone from the top management or the corporate structure inside MTI that has ever contacted us at all. We would know about that. There was also another question at some stage, investors got emails on their back offices that MTI support was directing people towards us. Now, at first we were very confused about that because it sounded like it could be a very good thing, but no one from support spoke to us. So we didn't vet that information. So there's two thoughts behind that. It could very well be that a very concerned employee at the offices were trying to help from their side and pointing them towards RAG, or it could be someone trying to hack the system and trying to bring disrepute to us, trying to link us to actual top management. Chris, can you maybe just come in and just give more foundation to this?
I don't know. I think, Henry, because you were cut off, we've given the floor to Marius. You might not have picked that up, and he's busy going through his questions right now. And just that point, we have covered that point very thoroughly in the last meeting as well. So I think that if Marius can just hold the floor and ask his questions, because he needs to get an opportunity to do that. If you don't mind, is that all right?
No, sure. I thought I was just answering.
Yeah, it was just because it's probably because you went in and out with the internet that happened. So Marius, please carry on with your question.
Thank you, Chris. The other one is for members in Australia that is invested from here. Is there any advice that do we have to go to any authority in Australia to report this crime, or don't we report? Do we go to a local police station? Is there another authority that you already is in contact with that we can report this as a crime because it is an international crime?
Hendrik, can I answer that just briefly, and then you can wrap me on the knuckles for it?
Yes.
I think at this stage of the game, we must focus in on getting the liquidator appointed, because going to report a crime is not going to bring back the funds. the liquidators are the only people who can bring the funds actually back to us. So they need to go out there and go and get that done. So we need to focus in on getting the liquidators done. Then what we'd like to do, and this is what we are recommending from the RAG team, is to find pilot or nodes of solicitors firms to consult with the people in the individual countries as to what the legal positions are. Because it's such a complicated thing, because you have an asset that's international. So in actual fact, in which country was the asset originally bought? Where did it come from? It's all in the internet. It's an internet asset, and it's just there is such a complex law there. I'm not saying don't lay the criminal charge. That I'm not saying. Please don't mislead me here. But it might be more effective to have the criminal charge taken care of by the South African police. And these discussions need to take place for us to be able to really tell you what's the right way to do this, because there's a lot of law involved in this. There's law of the local country where you live. There's law of the surrounding this Bitcoin and the currencies that are involved. And then there's the law in South Africa as well. And what is going to be the most effective is actually the question. And we have not opened those discussions with anybody at this stage. And I think we need to, at this stage, we'd really like to focus on that. So I'm not diverting that question, and I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying I don't know what the sensible answer is. I don't know, Hendrik, can you come in and maybe answer that?
Okay, Marius, the first thing is the Australians might have problem with regards to jurisdiction if you lay a criminal charge. That's right. My suggestion would be that firstly, we have to get a liquidator appointed and let the liquidator first determine, was there any wrongdoing from anyone involved at MTI? And then if they find any wrongdoing, then they are supposed to take the necessary criminal action. And as you've heard previously, there's already criminal investigation pertaining to MTI that was opened in November. Also, it does not help you now go to an Australian solicitor or lawyer and lay a claim against MTI. You've got a right to make a claim directly with the liquidator that you get appointed, and it will be free of charge. You must just be able to prove your claim. It was also alluded last night that the firm in the United States do have extensive links all over the world, and they said that they will make use of their extensive links should it be necessary to communicate or get the solicitor appointed in various countries who will be able to communicate with the affected investors in that country. It will just make it much more easier that if there's in each area, let's say maybe like in Australia or like now in America, one solicitor or attorney who communicate with the liquidator. Otherwise, the liquidator will be inundated by inquiries and a lot of communications with the various investors. So it is a good idea, but let us see first who's appointed as the liquidator, and then let us hear what is his plan of action, which hopefully will be in the best interest of the investors of MTI.
Anything else? All the some people that's on your radar committing this Ponzi schemes before, I don't have to mention names. And as far as I understand, they are they are kind of wanted people by the law in South Africa. How does this people manage to do this that I just done now again? And why is they not been caught before and proven guilty of a similar thing they just done before? I just don't understand, because this would have stopped and we would have had MTI. And is this just now the last one that they're doing now, and they're going to walk away free again? Because we know who they are. I don't have to mention names, but this never should have gone this far.
If I can answer that, Chris? Yes,
Yeah.
I agree with you. It was not supposed to have gone so far. Luckily, I'm working with a team that is hell-bent on ensuring that if the people who perpetrated this, and if there was any criminal activities, that it do not happen again. I know there's a lot of work with the local authorities in South Africa behind the scenes, and to ensure that this whole thing of people regularly operating these illegal businesses are exterminated right to the core, meaning they are arrested and then we can put them in jail. The other thing that is must also now be taken into account is that MTI is different than the previous Ponzi schemes, as there is a much larger contingent of foreign investors. The whole world is now looking at South Africa, and they've placed us under a magnifying glass, which is hopefully what we needed to ensure that the local government authorities do the necessary investigation with the required haste and use capable people to do the investigations. As I said, we are aware that there are civilians assisting now the police to ensure that they are able to get to the bottom of this, and if there was wrongdoing, identify the people and hold them accountable, and which will hopefully end up in jail time for the perpetrators.
Okay. One other thing is, I don't know if you probably know this. If you don't, I just want to bring it to your attention. When you had in the dashboard the functionality of doing a peer-to-peer, person-to-person transfer, that does not go through blockchain. So that is actually funds that can get lost in the system. So I can have an account, I just make example, and I open another fake account. And I peer-to-peer my funds to this fake account. And then I send that BTC to a cold wallet. And eventually when that fake account sitting at a zero balance, that account disappear out of MTI system. Do you guys knowing about this, that this is how it works?
Marius, yes, it's possible that what you just said is totally possible. That's why it's very important in the liquidator that gets appointed, he get investigators with the necessary knowledge who will be able to identify it. And it's possible that we can get all the necessary cryptocurrencies. As I said yesterday, there's already cooperation with the FBI, and some of these wallets have been flagged. So things are starting to happen. We just have to see who's going to be the liquidator appointed and who's going to be the capable people that he appoint to assist with running the investigation, identifying the assets, and then also successfully recuperating that assets. Because once you find assets that's in a certain wallet, depending on where that company is registered, it means you'll have to communicate with the jurisdiction in which country that entity is, so that one can arrange that firstly the cryptocurrencies are transferred to the liquidator for utilization within the estate. But as I said, it is currently until the liquidator is appointed and there has been evidence that there was wrongdoing. It is merely speculation, but what we do know, there was a deed of insolvency that was committed by MTI as they failed to pay out Bitcoin that was due to investors. And that's why also we were approached by the investor who we successfully obtained a provisional liquidation for, because he could not withdraw his funds. And his problem already started on the 1st of December, while most of the people only started experiencing challenges on the 8th of December.
I think you're breaking up there.
Yeah, Hendrik, I think concluded what he wanted to say over there. Chris, if there was anything else you wanted to add, otherwise Marius can
I only got
continue.
I just got one final question. I don't know if it's a relevant question here. The kind of last Zoom meeting that Johan had with Gerard Larsen, which I think was held on the 7th of December, 7 o'clock South African time. On the background of that meeting with Johan Steinberg, he was surely sitting somewhere, it looks like a hotel or something, with glass doors going out on a street with traffic going up and down, buses and cars. Now, that was the time that he was supposed not to be in South Africa. So have any of the police know that footage, maybe to identify that location?
I think there's a lot of subterfuge going on here. Johan bought airplane tickets, which we know of, which he never used. There is nobody really knows where he is. He might actually be sitting in Botswana or somewhere like that. We have no clue where he is. But all the information that we're gathering at the moment, we are feeding into the police at a high level. What has not happened yet is we are getting, how do I say this? We are working with senior police people to get this thing concentrated into a single driving force. Because, you know, if this thing is splintered all over the place, and exactly what you asked earlier, somebody goes and he lays a claim and he gives somebody a bunch of documents in Australia, and it might not, the jurisdiction might not be right. Those documents might lie on somebody's desk in that place when they could be used really usefully by the people who are actually driving the investigation in South Africa. That's one of the reasons why we are, you know, maybe you have to file a case in Australia, but then at least that case might need to be linked to the case in South Africa. You know how these things are. We've got so much protection on information, we don't share it anymore. And you know, everybody puts up their hand and says, no, I didn't share it because I had protection on information. So these things are things we have to look at, and they're questions we have to answer with real knowledge. That's also one of the reasons you don't want to be running around taking all your documents, chucking it on somebody's table in Perth, and then that guy looks at it and he thinks, I can't do anything about this, and all your very valuable information's lying there when it should be in Pretoria. This is one of the reasons I'm saying to people, I want these guys, I want them.
It's a case of, Chris, it's a case of there's so many YouTube videos of that's out there, that evidence, and we as a group of people of 280,000 members, we can do a lot of work. I don't want to say we want to be private investigators here, but there's some things that seems like it has been missed, and it's just bringing those things to your attention, you guys who is the RAG team, and say, hang on, look at that footage. Can someone identify this location? Then we could say, actually, on the 7th of December, Yuan was maybe in Hope Bay or Cape Town, or and it just seems like it's evidence that, like, when people start looking into things, they're missing things.
Yeah. I took a photograph of somebody in London, and isn't that Johan in the background? You know, was that not him in the background on that date and time? You know, that sort of thing. I absolutely agree with you, but that's what the RAG team is there for, is to try to coordinate as much of that. And we want to put out those feelers for everybody to help us. Right now, guys, we are dealing with thousands and thousands of people who have submitted their forms. And we are dealing in a small team with people who are getting ready for submissions tomorrow. So there's a lot of work going on in the RAG team, and the investigation at this stage, the liquidation is more important than anything else, because we have to give our liquidators teeth to go after these assets for the very reason you mentioned, Marius. We've got to stop these people transferring those assets away from them, or liquidating those assets, and they'll break it up. Sorry, Hendrik, do you want to take that?
No, finish first, Chris, and I'll
no, it's just that's the urgency for us right now. Get the right liquidators in there with the right legal teams, with the right investigators, and with the right auctioneers, so we can go after these assets. Then there's a lot of stuff. Are you going to get paid in Bitcoin? What are we going to sort out afterwards? There's time to resolve that. We're not ignoring those things, but we can't focus on those things right now. That's the only problem. And after the appointment of the liquidator, we as RAG can then really find our place, because we'll understand from the police, from all these law firms, from everybody else, where we stand in this whole thing. Right now, we're in transition, and it's almost pointless to do anything because we don't know what we're going to look like after the liquidation, after the appointment of the liquidators. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Another thing is just to make 100% sure, the deadline for this liquidation for the
now.
What's the thing that you need to fill in?
The requisition. It's now.
Yes. When is the deadline? Is that tomorrow, Monday?
Now. You got to get it in now. The guys are pulling that all together this afternoon. Now.
I thought it is Monday, 12 o'clock your time in South Africa.
The guys
not
are
your time in the UK,
Hendrik,
but 12 o'clock Monday, South Africa time.
Hendrik, would you want to just confirm what the situation is there at the moment?
Yes. Firstly, I just want to confirm also to everyone that the South African police will involve Interpol. Should there be any people that I suspect might have been involved with any criminal activities relating to MTI, and that is not currently or residing or in the jurisdiction of South Africa, then they will call in Interpol to assist. With regards to the nomination forms, it's supposed to be in this afternoon, as the nomination forms need to be printed and submitted to the master's office in Cape Town by the liquidators, so that the master can go through it from tomorrow morning and then just see and then make a determination who had the most number of support and who had the most quantum of support. If there's anyone who still have a nomination form in his or her possession, I would suggest that you, as soon as possible, email it to your preferred liquidator and send it as soon as possible. It's possible that I might still get time tonight to print out a form and then submit it tomorrow morning when the office opens of the master of the High Court.
Okay, Hendrik, what happens if we got people here, because this is all last minute for a lot of people in my group, and there's no way that they can do this in the next, I mean, it's now like nearly 11 o'clock at night time now, and there's no way they would be able to do it probably till end of business day for us tomorrow.
Okay.
Could they still just go? Could they still just go and submit it in anyway, or?
No, it will be too late, but they don't have to despair. What will happen? This is only a nomination for liquidators. They will still have the opportunity to lodge claims against the estate of MTI, which they then can prove and then will be submitted. What can also happen if the investors of MTI are not happy with the liquidator that gets appointed, at the first meeting of liquidators, that person can be removed if he do have or she has sufficient support, meaning that when you want to make your claims, you still send it to you to the liquidators, but if there's a specific person who do not come in as the head liquidator, or if you're unhappy with the head liquidator, then you must make it known to the person that you submit your form to and say, but you want another liquidator to be appointed who will work in your best interest. But I doubt it if someone will get appointed that will not be working in the best interest of the investors, as this is a very big estate. It will be scrutinized from all over the world, and there will be people looking at how the liquidator handled the estate, and should that person fail, I'm sure there will be swift action taken to ensure that the interest of the investors takes the first priority.
Okay, so
Okay,
just want to quickly just confirm that it's okay, no one needs to despair. If they haven't got the time to fill these forms in, they will still be able to submit a claim.
Yes, that's 100% right, Toby.
Can I just follow that question, because I'm still on the same topic here, Hendrik? Sorry, Marius.
No, it's fine.
Sorry about that. Hendrik, just one thing here. My feeling is, and you can tell me if I'm wrong about this, that if you've got the opportunity to submit that form, nominate your liquidator and submit it, because the master might be so overwhelmed that he might delay the appointment, and then your form will still count. If you don't submit it, your form has no chance of counting to get the right liquidator in. But although the liquidators are now preparing all that documentation, the master might turn around and say, look, there's just too much here, or my servers went down, or this, this is what I want. And it's still important to have your document in play at that stage of the game. Whether it's too late or not is not really a problem, because as Hendrik clearly said, you will have your opportunity to submit your claim even if you didn't submit your form. But it puts you on the books with you're in the running at least, even if you are in the back horses. Does that make sense, Hendrik? Am I correct in that?
Yes, you're 100% right, Chris, and I did not think about that possibility. So there's a slight possibility that something might happen in the master say, but he's going to postpone it still a little bit. But yeah, so if you guys still want to submit maybe tonight or early tomorrow morning, they can take a chance and see if it happens. As I stressed, it is only now for the appointment of the liquidator and not for the submitting of claims against the estate of MTI.
No, that's fantastic, because I think that's one of the main questions that people are asking, that they're worried that if they don't get this nomination form, they won't have a chance to put any claim in. And obviously you've laid that to rest now, that the nomination form, as important it is just a nomination form at this point in time. So I will stress that to obviously convey across to everybody in the groups that if you happen to run out of time, maybe still try and submit it if you can. If you can't, don't stress, because you still will be able to lay a claim later on.
Yes, 100%. I would just like to come in here to fill in on some of the other questions with what you've just said now, and about the calculation just for this nomination form.
Can Marius just finish? He's still on the podium at this stage. Marius?
Yes, so if people can't submit this in time, what do they have to do? They have to sit back until the liquidator is chosen, and then they have to go submit the form afterwards, or how does it work? Or you guys can inform us, or?
Yes, this is what I was basically trying to get at. Was that just a few things to wrap up for the nomination form. It might have been mentioned, there are 3 places that you need to go and have a look at the Bitcoin in your wallet. Firstly is your trading pool, second is your income wallet, and thirdly are your pending withdrawals. So that is that for this nomination form. Once this nomination period is over and the liquidator was appointed, then the communication, because this was one of the questions over here, once the liquidator was appointed, will they inform? No, this is where RAG comes in, and what we are trying to do from a central point of view. Through Hendrik and the other legal teams, we will get that information into the RAG team, and from here communicate that out to the members who's been appointed, and we will make sure, like we did previously, that it will be the correct vetted information that you get, because with the previous liquidation attempt earlier on, we had some false information going to the media very, very quickly, where people claim that they have a liquidator appointed, and that was false. And Hendrik had to write a letter. Hendrik, maybe you can just explain that to say, and then once that was confirmed by Hendrik, we then only posted the process on the RAG team, in the Telegram group, on the WhatsApp, At that stage, we didn't have a YouTube video that we actually made for that. So just coming back to Toby earlier on about the RAG team, and I hope that some of your fears about us as investors over here are not linked to top management. Is very important that you guys put that to rest and get the word out, because we are trying to get this verified information through the RAG system, the RAG communication group. So Hendrik, if you feel it's necessary to maybe just come in on that false information that went out, and how you went about in stopping that information and correcting it so that it was vetted through us.
Okay, thank you, Henry. Initially, after the court order was granted, there was mistakenly reported by some media houses that it was a certain attorney firm who managed to obtain the provisional liquidation order. While it was not that firm, its application that was successful, but the application of that was brought through the correspondent attorney of Mr. Wesi de Beer, and the advocate that stood up in court was advocate Mustaf. So yeah, we did speak to the necessary media houses, and they did retract the statements they did make, and it was even on television they broadcast this rectification. So that was done, and unfortunately there's a lot of people who were brought under the wrong perception. But now with the information that was given through this forum of RAG as well as the media houses, that rectification has been done.
Marius?
Yeah, thanks for that. I haven't got much more. I just only want to say, is there anything from my end in Australia that I can assist you guys in the future or help you with? If there is, you got my email, you can contact me. I'm happy to help if I can. And also I want to thank you all for your time today, tonight, whatever the time frame is where you're sitting. And thank you for everything. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Marius. We on the website, there's a questions and answers section, and we encourage everyone that has further questions or information that you might have, send it to the website. We've got a dedicated team at the back that are going through these emails and answering people as best and as fast as possible. Okay. Right, Toby, are there anything else you would like to ask?
No, I mean, I'll be honest with you, first of all, thank you everyone for, inviting us, Chris, for setting this up. You've laid pretty much all of my questions to rest right now. I think it's been quite an interesting video, so thank you very much for everyone coming on and holding this with us this afternoon.